On this video, we're going to be discussing Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. This is going to be a full book review, and I'm going to share with you my 5 key takeaways, these life-changing downloads that I got from this book so that you can apply them and take action on them. What's up, guys? My name is Nico Arapkalis, and I really love doing these book reviews. I've read these books so many times, and they've helped me and transformed my life in so many ways, and I'm going to discuss really how this impacted my life and help me really dive into this journey and help me really understand myself, understand this world of spirituality, and then therefore go on and impact thousands of people to actually do the same thing and live a more prosperous, abundant, fulfilled, happy, and joyful life. Okay, so with that being said, one other thing I want to share before we do get started actually is I do have kind of like a hack on how I read and how I retain things, and I do it very quickly. And I'm going to share that at the end of this video. It might be something that you've never heard before. I'll show you how to how I personally access the audiobooks. That's really seamless and just again helps me retain really well. So I want to share a quick little story about why I really love this book, because here's the thing: is that this book, as we talk a lot about in our communities and on this YouTube channel, we talk about the woo and we talk about the do. And so I heard, when I first got introduced to like this spiritual world, I thought it was so just woo-woo, right? And there was nothing really backing it. And this was the first book that helped me understand that there is science behind the woo, right? And so that's what brought so much legitimacy to this. And my life was completely shifted after I read this book and really started implementing the practices of meditation and why they're important beyond just people telling me it's important to meditate. I don't know if you can relate to that or not. So I had such a shift after this, and I actually went through a traumatic injury, and then ended up having surgery. I tore my pectoral tendon, and that was really my spiritual awakening. And I think this book actually kind of cracked me open. So I think this is really cool. It combines quantum physics, neuroscience, and that's what we talk about a lot here on this channel. So if you're not subscribed yet, make sure and do so. And if you want to join our school community, there will be a link down below as well, where we're helping hundreds and thousands of people really become the best version of themselves and really manifest and create the dream life. Okay, so with that being said, let's talk about this. So the first takeaway that I had from this book, even before we get into that, I want to share another story. I just have a wealth of stories, but I actually had a mentor. He was one of my coaches at a certain point, and he was telling me about this story about how this guy became a millionaire in less than 48 hours after going to a Joe Dispenza event and implementing the stuff that he taught at the event and the stuff that's in this book. So how did that happen? That sounds super hypey. That sounds like a hypey ad from 2005. So what happened is that this guy, he kind of reluctantly went to one of these events. I think he was kind of coerced into going, and then he basically wasn't into it at all the first day, first 2 days, first 3 days. But these long events, they have a residual effect. So he kept on going, and he started realizing that energy is really the key to everything. And so he had a marketing agency before he went to this event, and he was kind of just paycheck to paycheck. He was getting some good clients, but it just wasn't really, it was barely paying the bills. But what happened as he started understanding this whole law of energetics. And so basically what he did is he went back to his marketing agency, and he was just like completely shifted. And then what happened is one of his clients actually offloaded some money for tax reasons. And because of that, he literally paid this guy with the marketing agency that went to the Dispenza event right around $500,000 because they had to offload these tax expenses, right? And so then another client did practically the same thing with practically the same amount. And again, like I said, that culminates in about over $1 million. Now, what's crazier about that is that this guy that has the marketing agency, he realized the law of energetics, and he said, I've got to keep this energy flowing. So instead of keeping the money, he just gave it away. He didn't give away all of it, but he gave away a lot of it. And then his life just like compounded drastically from that. I mean, he's hanging out with Joe Rogan and Aubrey Marcus and doing all these crazy things. So I just want to preface that really quick, because there's so much power in really understanding the true nature of the law of energetics and how that really applies to life. And that's exactly what this book teaches about. Okay. I think it's also really powerful, these stories in this book. Basically, the story that this book opens up with is a lady, her husband actually committed suicide, jumped off one of the tallest buildings in Australia. And then that sent this lady into a downward spiral where she she was bedridden and she was having all these ulcers, and she basically, I believe she cultivated cancer as well. She got so sick that she was almost just completely ready to die. She was so depressed. Her kids were just, waiting for her to die essentially. And then she went to a Dispenza event as well. And then from there, she realized how powerful the mind is, how powerful energetics are. And she was over time, to heal herself completely and then create a 6-figure business and become a coach for Dispenza. So I thought that was really powerful. And other ones were Dispenza. He got in a trucking accident and he was paralyzed. And then he visualized himself getting well, and then it happened again. And so a couple other things these are just, I'm kind of rattling off these stories, but I think they're really powerful to understand these. They're talking about these organ transplants, and people would have these hankerings for fast food. It was like a young girl, she started having hankerings for fast food. No, I take that back. That was a different one. The one with the little girl, she started having like night terrors. And so the thing I'm getting across here with these stories is that they had these experiences, whether that was the fast food or it was the night terrors, is because they got organs from people that were either had loved fast food or was actually murdered in the middle of the night. And then they actually found the murderer because of the way she could really articulate how she felt. It's really wild, right? So I think those stories are really powerful, and it helps us understand how powerful this book is. So I wanted to explain those really quick. So those were kind of like points 1 and point 2. I wanted to share those powerful stories. The $1 million story, that was wild. The second stories were all about those things, that really how powerful our mind is. And when we get into mind heart coherence, as he talks about, and I'll talk about that here in a second. But the first thing I want to talk about like the direct implementation that I got from this book that you can go out there and apply, because that's what these videos are about. I want to help you actually apply this stuff in your life. But basically the conscious versus the unconscious mind. Okay, I realized this early on after I started getting into my spiritual development, is that our brains are literally operating 95% from the subconscious mind. It's our programs. Think about it as a computer that's programmed, right? It's literally programmed to be an automatic process to make sure that it just stays the most efficient part as possible. And that's exactly what our minds and our brains are doing. It wants to stay efficient. It doesn't want to think as much. And so that way it's operating from our subconscious, and our subconscious is programmed at a young age. We're literally programmed pretty much completely by about the age of 12 years old. So if you had some trauma and different things that happened in your life, even if it was just like little trauma, it starts programming, and all of a sudden you're living this life. So it's like you might have heard something about how money's evil, or what do you think? Money grows on trees, and then that's, could be perceived a piece of trauma. And then you just keep on building these beliefs around, money's hard to come by. It takes a lot of work to make money. Money is only for evil people, like whatever it was, that little comment that happened, and you start believing it, and then it's locked into your subconscious. And now we're operating with our conscious mind trying to fix all these things, but it's like our subconscious is just the thing that's driving, right? I always like to explain this to the people in our community and our clients, is that your conscious mind is the jet pilot, but your subconscious mind is the actual fighter jet, right? So you have the ability to move it, but it's a powerful force, and it's not like a fighter jet. It only can control it, right? It can't overpower it, and it's a really powerful force, and you have to go deep into the subconscious to actually reprogram it and change your life. And that's what those stories really emulate, is you have to seep down into your subconscious. So how do we actually seep down into our subconscious? Well, the way that you do it, and this kind of comes into basically point number 4, is the heart-brain coherence. And what that means is you basically get aligned with your heart and your mind, and they're very in synergy, right? So what a lot of things happen, and this is probably one of the biggest, most powerful things that I got from the book too, is the brain waves. Okay, there's a bunch of them in there, and they have these pamphlets in here that and all these charts and whatnot. I don't know if you can see those, but so it's very complex. It was dense. This book is dense for sure. But the thing that I pulled out of it, and to put this in the most simple way, is that there is beta brain waves and there is theta brain waves. Beta brain waves are these fast, high twitch brain waves, right? Theta brain waves are more like this. And so to get into your subconscious, theta waves is really when the door is actually unlocked into your subconscious. But here's the thing, is that most of us are in beta brainwaves all the time, and we try to get into our subconscious, but it's like there's a bouncer at the club that's not letting you in because you're operating from beta brainwaves. So the key is to get into theta brainwaves, because that essentially unlocks the door and you can seep into the subconscious. So how the heck do you even do that? How do you slip the bouncer a 20 and get into the club, right? Well, it's getting into the theta brainwaves, which is ultimately slowing down. And that's why the basis of this book is meditation, is slowing down. And that's kind of what I wanted to explain here on this video, is that everyone talks about how important meditation is, and you just hear that all the time. You got to meditate, you got to meditate, you got to meditate. But this book actually proves why, from a neuroscientific level, a quantum physics level, on why it's so important to slow down. Because if you really want to change your life and create the life and the abundance that you want, you have to get into the subconscious and you have to slip down in there. The only way you're going to do that is get out of beta brainwaves and you go into theta brainwaves by slowing down. So if you really slow down and then you start visualizing and seeing the life that you truly desire, and you basically, what Dispenza talks about is you remember your future, because most of us, again, from a subconscious level, we're remembering our past and we're just operating from our past. So it's about remembering your future, which is basically mental rehearsal or visualization, right? But the key component is that you have to unlock the door into the subconscious, because if you visualize and you're trying to visualize but you're in beta brainwaves, you're not getting in and it doesn't really do any good. So you have to open the door, get into theta brainwaves, and then start visualizing, doing that mental rehearsal, so that you actually can start reprogramming that subconscious, start reprogramming the computer software, so that you can start operating from a new subconscious and you can actually start living the life that you truly desire. Because if you're just operating from your conscious mind, you're just going to keep on doing the same thing over, because you're operating from your past instead of remembering your future. Hope that makes sense. I know that's dense and a little complex, but come back to this video, rewind it, and go back and watch it again. Maybe even come back to this in the next few weeks to really help you understand, because that's what I did with this book. I read it. I've read this probably like 4 or 5 times now. And again, I'm going to show you how I actually read this to make sure that I retain this stuff. Okay, but that's the key, and that's actually why we created a tool that is called Vision Espresso. It's a really powerful tool we offer to our community members, but basically it's a tool to help you. It's basically a guided visualization from your future self in your voice, so that it really guides you, and it's all based on your vision, and we help you create that vision with 5 specific questions. You answer those questions, and then what's the most amazing part, and I got so much inspiration from this book to create this product, is that what we do is we get clear on an intention and an elevated emotion, and then we also do breath work. So we calm down, get ourselves into theta brainwaves, and then we guide you in visualization through the lens of your future self, and it's in your voice, right? So it's a really powerful tool. It basically takes this book, one of the main concepts in this book, and applies it and gives you a tool that you can listen to every day that puts you in theta brainwaves, and then you can start remembering your future, as Joe Dispenza talks about. So how do we actually do that? Well, I just wanted to share that really quick because it's such a powerful tool and our clients absolutely love it. But here's the thing, is that probably one of the bigger things, and this is kind of point 5 that I want to wrap up with, is clear intention and elevated emotion. Because the elevated emotion is essentially what gets us into the theta brainwaves. We're very clear on that. We can start feeling it. We're basically feeling our future instead of just seeing it. Because once you can feel it and you're very clear on where you're going, that's the sauce right there. And that's where he has so many different meditations in this book that are really powerful. And that's the basis of it all, is having a clear intention and an elevated emotion. And once you start continually tapping into that, just like the lady that got sick from her husband dying, she spiraled down so quick. But the next thing that she did is she constantly was just doing the meditations, which was she was setting an intention of a clear intention and then elevated emotion. She stayed in that as much as possible. And one of my friends actually offered this metaphor, is that it's kind of like memorizing a song, right? You got to stay consistent with it. And the more that you stay consistent with memorizing that song, you just are constantly listening to it all the time, you're going to quickly memorize it, right? It's the same thing with changing your life and getting into your subconscious and having that clear intention, elevated emotion. You want to do that as consistent as possible. And you really want to get to that really amazing feeling, that heart coherence, brain-heart coherence, as Dispenza talks about. The more consistent you get there, the more you're actually going to start changing your life for where you want to go. So those are kind of my 5 life-changing. I know those were like a lot within those, but those were like kind of the main components. If you guys do want me to do a follow-up video on this book, because I could talk for hours about this book, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about it inside of our community. So if you want to join that. But the other thing I was going to tell you is the way that I really retain this book beyond just, reading it 5 times is I actually listen to the audiobook at the same time that I'm reading the physical copy. And one of the things that I've realized recently is that you can actually get audiobooks on Spotify. So if you have a Spotify Premium, which I certainly do, I know a lot of other people do because they like listening to music, you can just simply listen to audiobooks on there as well, and then get the physical copy. So that's the gist on Becoming Supernatural. Highly recommend you read this book. Trust that those stories resonated and made a lot of sense on why this stuff is so powerful. I mean, after going through this book, like I said, it basically had my spiritual awakening and had a drastic injury, and it really shifted my life. But I really started meditating much more. I started getting into theta brainwaves more. I started visualizing more, that mental rehearsal, and actually feeling it, and my life quickly shifted. I really had the desire to be a speaker and speak in front of stages, and then it was like less than, I think it's like 6 months when I was actually starting to speak, and then soon enough I was speaking to over 200 people, right? And then I started building businesses, all surrounding this type of work. And that's, again, what we talk a lot about in our communities. Like I said, we have the Vision Espresso that we offer to our community members. So we'd love to have you in there if you'd like to join. All the links are down in the video description, but wanted to bring that to you. Hopefully that gave you a lot of value. And again, let me know if you'd like a part 2, and then also make sure and subscribe to this channel if you'd like to be updated when we have new book reviews. Let me know what other book reviews you'd want down in the comments. Make sure and follow me on Instagram as well. Make sure and get connected. I'd love to connect with anybody that's really on these type of vibes, because this stuff is so powerful and it drastically changed my life. So thank you for watching this video. Truly appreciate your time, and we will see you on the next one.